Mechanic feeds. Hungry child without suspecting he's the son of a millionaire businessman, Frank Miller adjusted his grease-stained cap and sighed as he watched the slow traffic in the shop on that hot March afternoon in Phoenix. For months, the bills had been piling up, and every customer who didn't show up meant another sleepless night worrying about how to pay his debts. That's when he heard a noise coming from the back of the shop. When he went to check, he found a skinny boy about 9 years old, rummaging through the trash behind the building. The child wore a faded brown t-shirt and torn shorts, his face dirty, his big eyes filled with a sadness Frank recognized immediately. "Hey kid, what are you looking for back there?" he asked gently, stepping closer so as not to scare him. The boy froze like a startled animal ready to bolt. His eyes welled up with tears, but he tried to hide it, wiping his face with the back of his dirty hand. "Sorry, mister. I wasn't doing anything wrong, I swear. I was just looking for something to eat," he murmured weakly. Frank's heart clenched. Even with all his financial struggles, he had never gone hungry. His wife Dorothy always managed to put food on the table, even if it was just rice and beans. "When was the last time you ate, son?" "Yesterday morning, I think," the boy replied, lowering his gaze. "I found half a loaf of bread someone threw out near the bakery." Frank didn't hesitate. He walked back into the shop and grabbed his lunchbox, still untouched in the small makeshift office. Dorothy had packed it with care. Rice, beans, 2 pieces of chicken, and a simple tomato salad. "Here, eat up," he said, handing the blue plastic container to the boy. The child stared at the food as if it were the most precious thing in the world. His hands trembled as he held the lunchbox. "But what about you? This is your food. Don't worry about me. You need it more than I do." The boy devoured the meal with a speed that broke Frank's heart. Between bites, little sighs of relief escaped him, as if every grain of rice were a gift from heaven. "What's your name, kid?" "Ethan," he answered with his mouth full, still eating. "And where's your family, Ethan, your parents?" The boy's face closed off immediately. He stopped eating for a few seconds before continuing, slower now. "My mom. She left a long time ago. And my dad." His voice faltered. "My dad doesn't want anything to do with me." Frank noticed details he'd missed before. Despite the dirty, torn clothes, they were good quality. His haircut, though messy, looked like it had been done at a nice salon. His nails were too clean for a kid who'd been on the streets for long. "How long have you been on your own?" "A few days," Ethan lied, avoiding eye contact. Frank sensed there was more to the story, but decided not to push. The boy was clearly scared and distrustful. He needed to earn his trust first. "Listen, Ethan, I don't know your whole story, but no one should go hungry. If you want, you can come here every day at lunchtime. There's always a little extra food." For the first time, genuine tears filled Ethan's eyes. "Why? You don't even know me." "Because when I was a kid, I went through hard times too. And because everyone deserves a chance, son." Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and subscribe to the channel. It really helps us out as we're just getting started. Now back to the story. In the days that followed, Ethan showed up religiously at lunchtime. Frank always shared his meal, and little by little the boy began to open up. He said his parents were separated, that he lived with his father but that he was always traveling for work. "And when he's away, who takes care of you?" "The maids," Ethan answered, fiddling with the laces of his worn-out sneakers. "But they don't like me much. They say I'm too messy and cause too much trouble." "And your mother?" Ethan's face closed off again. "Dad said she didn't want anything to do with me anymore, that she left because I was a burden." Frank Miller felt a dull anger rise in his chest. What kind of man would say that to a child about his own mother? "And you believe that?" Ethan took a long time to answer, pushing his food around without looking up. "I don't know. Sometimes I dream about her. I remember her singing to me, putting me to sleep. But then Dad says those are just false memories, that I made them up in my head." With each passing day, Frank grew more attached to the boy. Ethan was smart, polite, but carried a deep sadness that didn't match his few years of life. Sometimes, Frank would find him crying quietly while eating, as if every meal brought up painful memories. One afternoon, Dorothy showed up at the shop to bring lunch and found Ethan helping Frank organize the tools. "Frank, who is this child?" she asked quietly, pulling her husband aside. "That's Ethan. He's been coming here every day. He's going through some trouble at home." Dorothy, at 63, had raised 5 kids and developed a sixth sense for spotting when a child was hurting. She watched Ethan for a few minutes before approaching. "Hi, sweetheart. Frank told me about you. How about I bring you your own lunch tomorrow?" Ethan looked up, surprised. It had been so long since anyone had spoken to him with such kindness. "You'd really do that?" "Of course. A growing boy needs to eat right." That night, Dorothy talked at length with Frank. There was something odd about Ethan's story. His clothes, though dirty, were name brand. His vocabulary was too refined for a neglected child. And most of all, he didn't seem like he'd been on the streets long. "Frank, have you considered that maybe this boy ran away from home?" "It crossed my mind," Frank admitted. "But you saw the state he's in, Dorothy. It's clear no one's taking proper care of him." "But what if his parents are looking for him? What if they're desperate?" Frank stayed silent for a long time. His wife's reasoning made sense, but something deep in his heart stopped him from taking action. Ethan needed protection. That much he was sure of. "Let's give it some time. I need to understand the situation better before doing anything." The following week, Ethan started spending more time at the shop. Frank had him help with simple tasks, sorting screws, cleaning tools, sweeping the floor. The boy worked diligently, as if trying to repay every kindness he'd received. It was during one of those afternoons that Mike, one of the shop's oldest employees, pulled Frank aside. "Boss, I don't mean to stick my nose where it doesn't belong, but that kid, there's something different about him." "How so?" "The other day, he was playing with some tools and started talking about engines in a way even some adults can't. And yesterday, when that imported car came in, he knew exactly the model and year. What street kid knows stuff like that?" Frank nodded thoughtfully. He'd also noticed Ethan's sharp intelligence and knowledge about things that didn't match his supposed background. "And there's more," Mike continued. "Yesterday, some guy came by asking if we'd seen a boy. He showed a photo, but I couldn't see it clearly. He looked desperate." Frank's heart sped up. "What kind of guy?" "Well-dressed, driving an expensive car. Said he was looking for his son." Frank Miller pretended to act natural, but inside a storm of emotions was brewing. Could that be Ethan's father? If so, why had the boy run away? And why did he seem so afraid when talking about going back home? That afternoon, when Ethan showed up for lunch, Frank decided to address the matter directly. "Ethan, I need to ask you an important question, and I want you to be completely honest with me." The boy stopped eating and looked at him with wide, frightened eyes. "Did you run away from home?" Ethan lowered his head, and his shoulders began to tremble. The tears came next, followed by sobs he tried to stifle. I couldn't take it anymore," he managed to say between tears. "Dad's never home, and when he is, he just yells at me. The maids are mean and make up stories about me. And he always says Mom didn't want anything to do with me, that she abandoned me because I was a problem." Frank knelt down to Ethan's level and placed his hands on the boy's shoulders. "But your father must be worried, don't you think?" "No," Ethan shouted. "He'll just be mad because now he'll have to cancel his trip to look for me. He always says I just ruin his life. And your mother? Are you sure she abandoned you?" Ethan stopped crying for a moment and looked straight into Frank's eyes. "I remember her, Uncle Frank. I remember her perfume, the stories she told me, how she used to sing me to sleep. But Dad says I made it all up, that she never loved me." Frank felt his heart break. There was a different truth behind that story. He was sure of it. But what was it? "Ethan, listen carefully to what I'm about to say. No matter what happens, you'll always have a place here with me and Dorothy. But maybe it's time we find out the truth about your family." "No, please, Uncle Frank, don't send me away." Ethan clung to the mechanic's arm in desperation. "I promise I'll work harder. I'll help more in the shop. I'll do anything you want." "Easy, son. No one said anything about sending you away. But there might be people out there suffering while looking for you." Frank stayed up all night talking to Dorothy about what to do. The situation was more complicated than he'd imagined, and the wrong decision could put Ethan in danger. "Frank, what if we try to learn more about his family before taking any action?" Dorothy suggested. If something really is wrong, we need to be sure before sending the boy back. The next morning, Frank made a decision. He called his daughter Amanda, who worked as a social worker, and asked for her help in discreetly investigating Ethan's situation. "Dad, this is really serious. If this child really ran away from home, there might be neglect or even worse going on," Amanda said. "Let me see what I can find out without raising suspicions." Meanwhile, Ethan kept showing up at the shop every day. Frank noticed the boy was gaining weight and looking healthier each day. His smile, which had been rare and forced at first, now appeared more often. One afternoon, as Ethan helped clean an engine, he began speaking spontaneously about his life. "Uncle Frank, when I was little, my mom always said I'd grow up to be really smart. She taught me things, showed me books, was happy whenever I learned something new. What happened to her? One day I woke up and she was gone. Dad said she left in the middle of the night, didn't even say goodbye. But that doesn't make sense because she always kissed me goodnight on the forehead before I fell asleep." Frank stopped what he was doing and gave the story his full attention. "And after that? Dad changed. Before he was more present. After Mum left, he started traveling more, working more, and when he was home, it felt like I was just bothering him." "Do you remember your mother's full name?" Ethan thought for a moment. Rachel Sullivan Parker. Dad sometimes spoke badly about her on the phone with other people, said she was crazy, that she wasn't fit to be a mother. Frank Miller kept that information in mind. Maybe it would be possible to track down this Rachel and uncover the truth. 2 days later, Amanda showed up at the shop with information that changed everything. "Dad, I need to talk to you, urgently, in private." Frank Miller left Ethan organizing the tools and went to speak with his daughter in the small office. "I found the boy's birth certificate, Ethan Sullivan Thompson, 9 years old, son of Richard Andrew Thompson and Rachel Sullivan Parker. And Richard Thompson owns one of the biggest construction companies in the region. He's worth millions. And Rachel is alive, Dad." Frank Miller felt the ground drop beneath his feet. "What do you mean, alive?" "She lives right here in Phoenix, works as a teacher at a public school. Dad, she never abandoned her son. There was a custody battle, and Richard managed to prove she had psychological issues. But from the records I accessed, it looks like everything was fabricated." Jesus Christ. There's more. Rachel has been fighting in court for years to get visitation rights. Richard uses his influence to complicate everything. And Dad, there are reports of neglect against him. Frank Miller leaned on the desk, trying to process everything. What kind of reports? Household staff said the child was left alone for days, sometimes weeks, that he didn't get proper attention, that he was treated more like a burden than a son. The case is sealed because of the father's influence. At that moment, Ethan appeared at the office door. "Uncle Frank, I finished organizing the tools. Can I do anything else?" Frank Miller looked at the boy he'd learned to love like a son and felt the weight of the world on his shoulders. Now he knew the truth, but what to do with it? "Ethan, come here. Sit with me for a minute." The boy approached trustingly. Over the last few weeks, Frank Miller had become the father figure he'd never had. "Son, if you could ask the good Lord for one thing, what would it be?" Ethan thought for a long moment. "I'd want to see my mom again. Just once. To ask why she left without saying goodbye." Tears welled in Frank Miller's eyes. "What if I told you your mom might never have left by choice?" "What do you mean?" "Ethan, there are things that happen in the grown-up world that kids don't fully understand. Sometimes parents fight, and that fight means they can't be together, even if they want to." Ethan stared at him with wide eyes, trying to make sense of it. "Are you saying my mom didn't abandon me? I'm saying things might not be exactly how your dad told you." That night, Frank Miller made the hardest decision of his life. He called Amanda and asked her to reach out to Rachel. "Sweetheart, this woman has the right to know her son is okay, and Ethan has the right to know the truth." 2 days later, a woman around 35 showed up at the shop. Brown hair, green eyes, her face a mix of anxiety and hope. She wore simple clothes but had dressed carefully, like someone preparing for the most important moment of her life. "Are you Frank Miller?" she asked, her voice trembling. That's me. And you're Rachel. Yes, your daughter told me that Ethan is here. Frank Miller studied her for a few seconds. There was something in her eyes that confirmed everything she suspected. It was the look of a mother who had been separated from her child against her will. He's in the back of the workshop helping my employee, but before you see him, I need to understand a few things. Rachel nodded, wiping the tears that had begun to form. You want to know if I really abandoned my son, don't you? Exactly. Rachel took a deep breath before starting her story. When I separated from Richard, Ethan was 5 years old. At first, we had a shared custody agreement, but Richard couldn't accept the divorce. He started using Ethan as a way to emotionally blackmail me. How so? If I didn't come back to him, he said he'd never let me see my son again. At first, I thought it was just anger, that he'd calm down with time. But it only got worse. Rachel wiped her nose with a tissue before continuing. One day when I went to pick up Ethan for the weekend, Richard said he didn't want to see me anymore, that Ethan had asked not to spend weekends with me. But when I looked at my son, I saw fear in his eyes, not rejection. And then, I started suspecting Richard was manipulating Ethan against me. I hired a lawyer, tried to prove in court that there was parental alienation, but Richard is a very influential man and I'm just a teacher. Frank listened silently, feeling anger rise inside him. He convinced the judge I had psychological problems, that I wasn't fit to care for a child. He got fake medical reports, testimony from employees who lied for money. And Ethan? Did he know about all this? No. To protect him, Richard made up that I had abandoned the family, that I didn't want anything to do with him. For the last 4 years, I've been fighting in court to prove the truth and get the right to see my son. Rachel showed a folder full of documents. I have every petition, every appeal my lawyer filed. I never stopped fighting for Ethan, never. Frank felt his chest tighten. This woman had spent 4 years without seeing her son, and Ethan had spent 4 years believing his mother abandoned him. Rachel, I need you to understand something. Ethan is deeply hurt emotionally. He ran away from home because he couldn't take it anymore, but he still believes you abandoned him. I know. I can only imagine what this has done to him. Do you want to see him? Rachel closed her eyes and took a deep breath. It's all I've ever wanted. Frank went to the back of the workshop, where Ethan was helping Mike organize engine parts. Ethan, come here for a minute. There's someone who wants to meet you. The boy followed him without suspicion. When they reached the front of the workshop and Ethan saw Rachel, his face turned pale. Mom, he whispered, as if seeing a ghost. Rachel knelt to his level, tears streaming freely down her face. Hi, my love. Look how big you've gotten. Ethan stood frozen for a few seconds, as if trying to process what he was seeing. Then, slowly, he began walking toward his mother. I knew you didn't abandon me, he said, his voice breaking. I knew Dad was lying. Rachel hugged him with all her strength and Ethan returned the embrace just as tightly. Both cried, 4 years of forced separation dissolving in that moment. My son, forgive me for taking so long to find you, Rachel whispered in his ear. It wasn't your fault, Mom. Dad wouldn't let you see me, would he? No, my love, but I never stopped fighting to come back to you. Frank watched the scene with tears in his eyes, but he knew this was only the beginning. Richard Thompson wouldn't easily give up the control he had over his son. Rachel, do you have a safe place to stay with Ethan? I have a small apartment downtown. Why? Because when Richard finds out Ethan is with you, he'll try to stop you by any means necessary. As if summoned, a black luxury car pulled up in front of the garage. A tall man, around 40, stepped out wearing an expensive suit and a furious expression. Behind him came 2 men who were clearly private security. Ethan hid behind Rachel, and Frank Miller stepped in front of them. Where is my son? Richard shouted before even getting close. Daddy, Ethan whispered, clutching his mother's skirt. Richard saw Rachel, and his face grew even angrier. What is this lunatic doing here? Rachel, you have no right to be near my son. Richard, Ethan is my son too, Rachel replied firmly, but stayed behind Frank. Your son? You abandoned this child 4 years ago, disappeared from his life without a word. Frank stepped forward. Mr. Thompson, you're mistaken. Mrs. Sullivan Parker never abandoned Ethan. She was kept from seeing him. Richard looked at him with contempt. And who are you to interfere in my family? You kidnapped my son. No one kidnapped anyone. Ethan showed up here alone, hungry and scared. I just offered food and protection to a child in need. Ethan, come here now, Richard ordered. Ethan clung tighter to his mother. I don't want to go, Dad. I want to stay with Mom. Don't be ridiculous. This woman abandoned you. She forgot you existed. That's not true, Ethan shouted, stepping out from behind his mother for the first time. You're the one who wouldn't let her see me. You lied to me. Richard was stunned by his son's reaction. Ethan, you don't understand. This woman is mentally ill. The judge ruled she can't have you because she's dangerous. Liar. Ethan was crying, but his voice was steady. Mom was never dangerous. You're the one who left me alone, who yelled at me, who said I just messed up your life. Ethan. Richard tried to step forward, but Frank blocked his path. You heard what the boy said. He doesn't want to go with you. Get out of my way, you nobody. You don't know who you're dealing with. I know exactly who I'm dealing with. A man who made a 9-year-old boy believe his own mother abandoned him. Richard signaled for the security to move in, but at that moment several people arrived. Dorothy appeared with Amanda, who had brought a court officer and a social worker from the city. Mr. Richard Thompson, the officer said, I have a court order here that I need to enforce. Richard paled. What order? A protective measure for the child Ethan Sullivan Thompson. Until a new family evaluation is completed, temporary custody goes to the mother, Rachel Sullivan Parker. This is outrageous. I have legal custody of my son. You had, sir. But new evidence has surfaced about parental alienation and neglect. The case will be reopened. Amanda approached Frank. Dad, Rachel contacted a lawyer yesterday and got this emergency order. She provided proof that Richard was blocking her contact with Ethan. Ethan stepped out from behind his mother and walked up to Richard. Dad, I don't hate you, but you lied to me about Mom, and you never really had time for me. Richard looked at his son and for the first time seemed to truly see the boy he'd been neglecting all these years. Ethan, I just wanted to protect you. Protect me from what? From someone who loves me? Richard couldn't answer. He was faced with the truth he'd avoided for years. In his thirst for control and revenge against his ex-wife, he'd destroyed his relationship with his own son. Mr. Richard, said Frank Miller in a calm voice, Ethan is an incredible child, smart, affectionate, hardworking, but he's been suffering for years. He needs parents who love him, not people who use him as a weapon in a war. Richard looked around, at Ethan clinging to his mother, at Rachel crying with relief, at Frank Miller who had protected his son when he himself had failed. I never wanted it to come to this, he finally said, his voice breaking. Daddy, Ethan let go of his mother and stepped closer to Richard. You can learn to be a real dad. Uncle Frank taught me it's never too late to make things right. Richard knelt to his son's height. Will you forgive me, Ethan? I forgive you, Daddy. But you have to promise you'll let me stay with Mommy and that you won't lie to me anymore. I promise. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing, the court officer explained the next steps in the process. There would be a new psychological evaluation for the whole family, and Ethan would have the right to express his preferences regarding custody. Rachel could take Ethan home that same day. Rachel, Richard said before she walked away, you have every right to hate me for what I've done, but I need you to know I never meant to hurt Ethan. Richard, what you did was terrible, but if you really want to make things right, you'll have to work hard to earn back our son's trust. I know and I will. Ethan let go of his mother and ran to hug Frank Miller. Uncle Frank, thank you so much for everything. You saved my life. No need to thank me, son. Just be happy and take good care of your mum. Will you still be my friend? Forever, Ethan. Whenever you want, you can come by the shop. There'll always be a place for you here. Ethan hugged Dorothy too. Mrs. Dorothy, thank you for the delicious meals. You cook better than any fancy restaurant. Dorothy smiled with tears in her eyes. You'll always be my grandson in my heart, sweetheart. Rachel approached Frank and Dorothy. There aren't words to thank you for what you've done. You didn't just protect my son, you gave us our family back. We only did what was right, Frank replied. No, you did so much more. You showed Ethan that there's kindness in the world, that there are people who care even when they don't have to. Ethan took one last look at the shop that had been his refuge these past weeks. Can I come back on Saturday? I want to show Mom how to organize the tools. Everyone laughed, easing some of the emotional tension. Of course you can, son, Frank said. Rachel and Ethan walked away hand in hand, finally together after 4 long years. Richard stayed behind, talking with the court officer about the next legal steps. Dorothy hugged her husband. Frank, I'm proud of you. You did the right thing. Did I, though? Should I have looked for his family from the very first day? If you had, we might never have learned the truth. Ethan needed time to trust someone and tell his real story. Frank looked around the shop, where traces of Ethan still lingered. The tools organized just the way he liked. A drawing he'd made taped to the wall, a plastic cup he used for water. You know, Dorothy, I never thought sharing a meal could change so many lives. But it did, Frank, and for the better. That night, as Frank was closing up the shop, Mike approached him. Boss, today I learned something important. What's that? That you never know the impact a simple gesture can have on someone's life. You saved an entire family just by being kind to a child. Frank Miller locked up the workshop and looked up at the starry sky of Phoenix. Mike, I think I was the one who got saved. Ethan taught me there's purity and goodness in this world, even when everything seems lost. In the days that followed, Ethan's story spread through the neighborhood. Frank Miller's workshop became known as the place where miracles happen. People started showing up offering work. Other mechanics sent clients his way, and little by little, the family's financial situation improved. Ethan kept his promise and showed up the following Saturday, bringing Rachel Sullivan Parker to see the workshop properly. Uncle Frank, I showed Mum how to organize the tools the way you like, Ethan said proudly. Rachel watched her son interacting with Frank and Dorothy. The mutual affection was clear, the special bond that had formed during those difficult weeks. Frank, can I ask you something personal? Rachel said, while Ethan played with the tools. Of course. Do you have children? I have 5, all grown up with their own lives now. Did any of them bring you the joy Ethan has these past few weeks? Frank thought for a moment. All my children brought me different kinds of joy. But Ethan reminded me how important it is to be present in a child's life, to listen, to protect, to love without conditions. I want you to be his godfather, Rachel said suddenly. Frank was surprised. Rachel, you barely know me. I know enough. I know the man who shared his own food with my son when he was hungry. I know the man who protected him when he was scared. I know the man who gave me back my family. Ethan overheard and ran to hug Frank. Uncle Frank is going to be my godfather? Really? If your mother truly wants it. I do, Ethan shouted. That way you'll be part of our family forever. 2 weeks later, Richard showed up at the workshop. He looked visibly different, thinner, with dark circles under his eyes, the look of someone who had gone through deep reflection. Frank Miller, can I talk to you? Of course, come in. Richard glanced around the simple workshop, taking in every detail of the place where his son had found the kindness he himself had failed to give. I want to apologize, and I want to thank you. Apologize for what? For treating you badly that day. You were protecting my son and I attacked you for it. Frank offered Richard a chair. And what do you want to thank me for? For being the father I should have been. For showing Ethan that real love exists in this world. The 2 men sat in silence for a few minutes. Richard, can I ask you something? Go ahead. Why did you do all that? Why did you take Ethan away from his mother? Richard took a deep breath before answering. Because I couldn't accept that Rachel didn't love me anymore. I used Ethan as a way to keep her in my life, even if it was through suffering. And now? Now I understand that real love means letting people be happy, even if it's far from us. I'm in therapy trying to figure out how I became someone capable of hurting my own child. Frank saw sincerity in Richard's eyes. How's your relationship with Ethan? Hard, but getting better. He gave me a chance, even after everything. We're getting to know each other again, this time as real father and son. That's good. Frank, you changed my life too. Seeing how you treated Ethan made me realize everything I was doing wrong. You taught me what it means to be a father. Just then, Ethan came running into the workshop. Uncle Frank, Mum said that, Dad. He froze, surprised to see Richard there. Hey, son, I came to thank Uncle Frank for taking care of you. Ethan stepped closer, cautiously. There was still some insecurity in the relationship with his father, but there was also hope. Daddy, Uncle Frank taught me lots of things. Do you want me to teach you too? Richard felt tears welling up in his eyes. I'd love that, Ethan. I want to learn everything you can teach me. Ethan ran to grab a small toolbox Frank Miller had given him as a gift. Look, Daddy, Uncle Frank gave me these tools just for me. Now I can fix little things. Richard knelt to be at his son's level and examined the tools with genuine interest. Wow, these are really cool tools. Can you show me how to use them? Of course. Come here, I'll show you how to change a flashlight battery. Frank Miller watched father and son working together for the first time and felt deep satisfaction. Sometimes, he thought, miracles happen in the simplest places and through the humblest gestures. 3 months had passed since Ethan's reunion with Rachel. The family dynamic had completely changed. Rachel had primary custody, but Richard now exercised his visitation rights responsibly and lovingly. They had even managed to talk civilly about Ethan's future. Rachel, I want to make you a proposal, Richard said during one of Ethan's visits. What kind of proposal? I want to pay for Ethan's education at the best school in town, and I want to set up a college fund for him. Rachel was suspicious. In exchange for what? Nothing. I just want to give my son the opportunities he deserves. And I want to make up for the years I lost being a terrible father. Ethan, who was playing nearby, overheard the conversation. Daddy, I don't want to go to a fancy school. I like Mommy's school. Why, son? Because that's where Mommy works. And the kids there are like me. They won't keep asking why my dad is rich and my mom is a teacher. Richard and Rachel exchanged glances. Ethan, even at his young age, already understood the social complexities his situation created. So what do you want, Ethan? Rachel asked. I want to keep studying where I am. But can Daddy pay for mechanics classes for me? Uncle Frank said when I grow up, I can work with him at the shop. Richard smiled. His son had inherited simplicity and the right values despite everything. Of course, Ethan. I'll find the best mechanics class for kids in town. And Daddy? Yes? Can you have lunch with us on Sunday? Mommy makes food almost as good as Dorothy's. Rachel and Richard laughed. It was the first time Ethan had suggested his parents spend time together since the reunion. If your mom doesn't mind, I'd love to. Rachel nodded. There were still hurts between them, but Ethan was the priority. You can come, Richard, but only if you promise not to talk about work during lunch. I promise. The following Sunday, for the first time in 4 years, Ethan had lunch with both his parents. It wasn't a perfect family, but it was a family in the making, built on love for the boy who had once gone hungry behind a repair shop and found so much more than just food. Frank Miller remained a constant presence in Ethan's life. Every Saturday, the boy showed up faithfully at the shop to help and learn. Dorothy always packed him a special lunch, and little by little, Ethan became the grandson they never had. Uncle Frank, Ethan said one Saturday afternoon, can I tell you a secret? Of course, son. Sometimes I still have nightmares. I dream that Mommy leaves again or that Daddy takes me far away. Frank stopped what he was doing and knelt to Ethan's level. Ethan, those fears are normal. You've been through things no child your age should have to face. But how do I stop being scared? Look around you, son. How many people love you? Ethan thought for a moment. Mommy, Daddy, you, Dorothy, Aunt Amanda. That's right. And all these people will always protect you. When fear comes, remember that. Ethan hugged Frank Miller. "Uncle Frank, when I grow up, I want to be just like you." "What do you mean?" "I want to help kids going through hard times. I want to share my food with those who are hungry." Frank Miller felt his chest swell with pride. "You're already better than me, Ethan. You have a pure heart no one could break, even after all you've been through." 6 months after their reunion, Rachel Sullivan Parker received an unexpected offer. Richard Andrew Thompson wanted to establish a foundation for at-risk children and asked her to be the educational director. "Why me?" Rachel asked, skeptical. "Because you're the best educator I know. Because you understand what it means to fight for a child. And because I want to do something good with the money I have." "What does Ethan think about this?" "Ask him yourself." That same night, Rachel talked to Ethan. "Sweetheart, your father wants to create a place to help kids going through tough times, just like you did. And he wants me to work there." "Like a place like Uncle Frank's workshop?" "Yeah, something like that. A place where kids feel safe and loved." Ethan stayed thoughtful for a few minutes. "Mom, do you think Uncle Frank would agree to work there too?" "What do you mean?" "He could teach the kids how to fix things, and Dorothy could cook for them. That way, the kids would have good food and people who truly care." Rachel smiled. Her son had found the perfect solution. "I'll talk to them." When Rachel proposed the idea to Frank Miller and Dorothy, they were surprised. "Rachel, I'm just a mechanic. I don't know anything about at-risk kids." "Frank, you understand suffering children, and more importantly, you have a heart that can't ignore someone in need." "And would it be a paid job?" "It would. Richard wants to build a professional team with fair wages and benefits." Frank Miller looked at Dorothy. "What do you think, old girl?" "I think it'd be a chance to help more kids like Ethan, and I think we're too old to pass up opportunities to do good." And so, the Ethan Foundation was born, a tribute to the boy who had changed all their lives. The foundation operated in a large house Richard bought and renovated specifically for the project. It had a workshop where Frank Miller taught basic mechanics to the kids, a kitchen where Dorothy prepared nutritious meals, classrooms where Rachel organized educational activities, and a common area where the children could just be children. Ethan was the foundation's first official student, even though he no longer needed its services. He wanted to set an example for other kids, showing them it was possible to overcome hardships. "Uncle Frank," Ethan said on opening day, "do you remember when we first met?" "Like it was yesterday, son." "Do you think things would have been different if you hadn't given me that meal?" Frank Miller looked around, at Rachel leading activities with a group of kids, Dorothy handing out sandwiches, Richard discussing future projects with social workers. "I think everything happens for a reason, Ethan. Maybe we met because that's what fate wanted." "Or maybe," Ethan said, smiling, "we met because there are still good people in the world, and you're one of them." Frank Miller hugged the boy who had changed his life forever. "No, Ethan, you're the one who taught me to be a better person." A year after the foundation's opening, Ethan turned 11. The party was held at the foundation itself, with all the children supported by the project, the families of Frank Miller and Rachel Sullivan Parker, and even some of Richard's former employees who had testified in Ethan's favor during the legal proceedings. "Dear friends," Richard spoke during the celebration, "today we're not just celebrating Ethan's birthday. We're celebrating the miracle that happens when good people come together." "Preach, Dad," Ethan shouted, making everyone laugh. "Ethan taught me that real wealth isn't in the bank. It's in the relationships we build, the love we give and receive, and the difference we make in others' lives." Richard looked directly at Frank Miller. "Frank, you taught me how to be a father. Rachel, you taught me how to forgive. Ethan, you taught me how to be human." Ethan stood up and ran to hug Frank. "Uncle Frank, can I make a speech too?" "Of course, champ." Ethan climbed onto a chair to be taller and addressed the room. "When I was little, well, littler than I am now," he said, sparking laughter, "I thought no one liked me. I thought I was a bad kid who deserved to be alone." The room fell silent. "But then I met Uncle Frank, who gave me food when I was hungry, and Mrs. Dorothy, who made the most delicious food in the world for me. And I found my mom again, who always loved me even when I thought she had abandoned me. Ethan looked at Richard. And my dad learned how to be a real father. He's not perfect yet, but he's trying really hard. Richard discreetly wiped away tears. What I'm trying to say is that sometimes we think we're alone in the world, but we're not. There's always someone willing to help, always someone who cares. We just have to accept help and give good people a chance. The entire room applauded the boy's speech. And now, Ethan continued, at this foundation we can help other kids discover that they're not alone either. After the party, as everyone helped clean up, Rachel approached Frank. Frank, can I tell you something? Of course. Over the last few months I've received job offers from private schools that would pay much more than working here. Frank looked concerned. Are you thinking of accepting? No, because I realized money can't replace the feeling of making a difference in people's lives. Ethan taught me that too. Rachel, you're an incredible woman. Ethan is lucky to have a mother like you. Actually, I'm the lucky one. Lucky to have found people like you and Dorothy, who helped me rescue my son and my family. 2 years passed. The Ethan Foundation had become a model for supporting children in vulnerable situations throughout the Phoenix area. Ethan, now 13, was a well-adjusted, happy teenager, and above all, generous. Uncle Frank, Ethan said one Saturday afternoon in the workshop, I had an idea. Let's hear it, champ. What if we started a program where the older kids at the foundation teach the younger ones, like I could teach basic mechanics to the little ones, others could teach math, reading? Frank smiled. Ethan had become a natural young leader. That's an excellent idea. Let's talk to your mom and dad about it. And Uncle Frank? Yeah? Thank you. For what this time? For teaching me that helping others makes you feel good. For showing me that it doesn't matter how much money you have, what matters is the size of your heart. Frank hugged the boy who had grown so much, but was still the same kind-hearted kid he'd found rummaging through the trash behind the workshop. Ethan, I'm the one who should thank you. You taught me that a simple gesture can change the world. How so? When I shared my lunch with you, I never imagined it would save a family, create a foundation, and change the lives of hundreds of children. Ethan thought for a moment. So you mean when we're kind to one person, that kindness spreads? Exactly. It's like throwing a pebble into water. The ripples keep spreading until they reach places we can't even imagine. At that moment, a new child arrived at the foundation. He was a boy about 8 years old, thin, with dirty clothes, and the same frightened look Ethan had when he first showed up at the workshop. Uncle Frank, can I go help the new boy? Ethan asked. Of course, champ. Go ahead. Frank Miller watched as Ethan approached the new boy with kindness and patience, offering him a sandwich and speaking softly to reassure him. What goes around comes around, Frank murmured to himself, smiling. Dorothy appeared beside her husband. What are you thinking about? I'm thinking Ethan is doing for others what we did for him. The circle is closing. And a new one is beginning, Dorothy observed, watching Ethan introduce the new boy to the other children at the foundation. You know, Dorothy, sometimes I wonder what would have happened if I hadn't seen Ethan behind the workshop that day. Nonsense, Frank. You always notice when someone needs help. It's just who you are. But what if I'd been in a hurry? What if I'd pretended not to see? Then another kind person would have helped him, because children with light inside them always find someone to protect them. Frank looked at his wife. How can you be so sure? Because I believe goodness always wins, Frank. Sometimes it takes time, sometimes the road is hard, but it always wins. That night, during dinner at home, Frank told Dorothy about his conversation with Ethan. You know what amazes me most about that boy? What? He went through so much hardship, but he never grew bitter. Instead, he wants to help other kids so they don't suffer like he did. It's because he was loved, Frank. Even with all the struggles, he always knew there were people who truly cared for him. Rachel, right? Rachel, us, and deep down, even Richard. In his own misguided way, Richard always loved his son. He just didn't know how to show it. Frank grew thoughtful. Dorothy, do you think we've changed a lot since we met Ethan? We have. I became a grandmother. You became a teacher and we both became better people. How so better? Before we helped people, but only occasionally. Now helping has become our profession, our life's mission. And you don't miss the simpler life we had before? Dorothy smiled. Frank, the life we have now is simple. We wake up, go to work with children who need love, come home satisfied knowing we made a difference. What could be simpler than that? Frank laughed. You're right, and tomorrow's Monday. Another week at the best job in the world. With the best boss in the world, Dorothy teased. Boss? Ethan's the boss. We just work for him. Frank chuckled. The next morning, Frank arrived early at the foundation and found a surprise. Ethan was already there, talking to the new boy who had arrived the day before. Good morning, Uncle Frank, Ethan greeted. This is Jackson. I told him about the workshop and he wants to learn how to fix things. Jackson waved shyly at Frank. Hi, Jackson. Welcome to the foundation. Want to see the workshop? The boy nodded eagerly. As Frank showed him the tools, he watched Ethan patiently explaining how each one worked. It was like looking at himself 3 years ago, teaching Ethan the same way. Ethan, Frank said when they were alone, you're becoming an excellent teacher. I learned from the best, Ethan replied, smiling. And what did you learn? That teaching is a form of love. That when we teach someone something, we're giving them a tool to improve their life. Frank Miller felt his chest swell with pride once again. Ethan, can I tell you a secret? Of course. When you showed up at my shop, I was going through a tough time. I was discouraged, thinking my life didn't have much meaning. Really? Really. But then you came along and gave me the chance to make a difference in someone's life. You saved me just as much as I saved you. Ethan hugged Frank Miller. So we saved each other? Exactly, champ. Uncle Frank? Go ahead, Ethan. When I grow up and have kids, I'll tell them the story of how a kind mechanic changed the life of our whole family. And I'll tell them how a brave boy taught me it's never too late to make a difference in the world. Dear listener, if you're enjoying the story, don't forget to like and especially subscribe to the channel. It helps us a lot as we're just starting out. Now, continuing. 5 years had passed since that afternoon, when Ethan was found rummaging through the trash behind Frank Miller's shop. The boy was now an 18-year-old young man, about to start college for mechanical engineering. The Ethan Foundation had grown and was serving over 200 children. Uncle Frank, Ethan said one Saturday afternoon, his last as a kid at the foundation, I want to show you something. Ethan pulled a folded paper from his pocket. What's this? My college entrance essay. The topic was an encounter that changed my life. Frank unfolded the paper and began to read. The essay detailed the story of how a simple mechanic had shared his lunch with a hungry child and how that act had transformed not just their lives, but the lives of hundreds of other children. Ethan, this is beautiful. And it's true, Uncle Frank. Every word. Did you get into college? I did. And guess what? I got a full scholarship. I'll study engineering so I can improve the foundation's projects. Frank hugged Ethan tightly. I'm so proud of you, son. Uncle Frank, there's something I've always wanted to ask you, but never had the courage. Ask away. Did you really never suspect I came from a wealthy family? Frank thought for a moment. I had a feeling there was something different about your story. But you know what I thought? What? I thought that no matter what your story was, you were a child who needed help. And that's what mattered. What if I really had just been an ordinary street kid? I would have done the exact same thing. A hungry child is a hungry child, Ethan. It doesn't matter where they come from. Ethan smiled. That's why I admire you so much, Uncle Frank. To you, every person is worth the same. Because it's true, Ethan. We're all equal when it comes to basic needs. Love, care, protection, food. Rachel Sullivan Parker appeared at the shop just then. Ethan, it's time. Your father is waiting outside. Ethan was graduating high school that night in a special ceremony at the foundation. The entire extended family would be there. Frank Miller, Dorothy, Rachel, Richard Andrew Thompson, Amanda, and even some of Richard's former employees who had become family friends. Mom, can I ask you something? Of course, sweetheart. I want Uncle Frank to walk me on stage when I receive my diploma. Rachel smiled with tears in her eyes. I'm sure he'd be honored. The ceremony was emotional. Ethan had been chosen as the class speaker, and his speech was about second chances and how small gestures can have big impacts. My dear classmates, Ethan said into the microphone, today isn't just the end of one chapter. It's the beginning of our lives as adults responsible for making a difference in the world. Some of you know my story. You know I went through difficult times as a child, but what you might not know is that it was precisely in those hard moments that I found the most important people in my life. Ethan looked directly at Frank Miller in the audience. I learned that kindness is priceless. I learned that love doesn't depend on blood ties. I learned that family is who chooses to stand by your side, not who is obligated to. And above all, I learned that our responsibility as human beings is to care for one another, to share what we have with those in need, to lend a hand to those who are falling. The audience gave a standing ovation. So, my friends, leave here with the mission to be the person you'd want to meet in a difficult moment. Be the reason someone still believes in good people. When Ethan stepped off the stage after receiving his diploma, he ran straight to hug Frank Miller. Thank you for everything, Uncle Frank, for being my father when I needed one, for teaching me how to be a good person. Ethan, you've always been a good person, I just helped you see it. Richard approached the two. Frank Miller, can I talk to you for a minute? They stepped slightly away from the group. Frank, I know I've said this before, but I need to say it again. You saved my son, and you saved me too. Richard, you saved yourself, I just showed you the way. No, Frank, you showed me what it truly means to be a man. It's not about money or power. It's about having the courage to do what's right, even when it's hard. And now, how does it feel watching Ethan grow up? Proud and grateful. Proud of the man he's becoming and grateful I had the chance to be part of that change. He was always special, Richard. You just needed to give him the chance to show who he really was. Frank, can I ask you something personal? Of course. Do you regret anything about this whole story? Frank Miller thought for a long moment. I regret not trusting my instincts sooner. Taking too long to realize Ethan had been suffering much longer than I thought. And I regret taking 4 years to realize I was destroying my own son, Richard said. But I thank God every day for the chance to make things right. What matters is that you did, Richard, and that Ethan forgave you. That's what counts. That night, during the graduation party, Frank Miller watched Ethan interacting with everyone present. The young man spoke to the younger kids at the Ethan Foundation like a caring older brother, thanked the teachers sincerely, and treated all the adults with respect and warmth. What are you thinking about? Dorothy asked, approaching her husband. I'm thinking it was all worth it, Dorothy. Every bit of it. What, specifically? Sharing my lunch with a stranger one afternoon, standing up to a powerful businessman to protect a child, changing our whole lives to work at the foundation. And why was it worth it? Frank pointed to Ethan, who was helping a small child reach a cup of juice. Because look at what came from that scared boy I found digging through the trash. Look at the man he's become. And look at the man you've become too, Frank. You were a good mechanic. Now you're an educator who's changed hundreds of children's lives. We did the right thing, didn't we, Dorothy? We did more than the right thing, Frank. We did what was necessary. Ethan approached them at that moment. Uncle Frank, Dorothy, can I talk to you? Of course, dear, Dorothy replied. I want you to know that even when I'm in college, I'll keep coming to the foundation every weekend. This place is my home and you're my family. Ethan, Frank said, you don't have to feel obligated. It's not an obligation, Uncle Frank. It's a choice. It's love. This foundation exists because one day a kind man shared his food with me. Now it's my responsibility to help continue this work. Dorothy hugged Ethan. You're going to be an amazing engineer, my grandson in heart. And you'll keep being the best grandparents in the world. 3 years passed. Ethan was in his 3rd year of engineering and had developed several improvement projects for the foundation. He created a sustainable garden, completely renovated the workshop with modern equipment, and was working on an expansion project that would allow them to serve twice as many children. Uncle Frank, Ethan said one Saturday morning, I have some news to share. Go ahead, champ. I met a girl at college. Her name is Olivia, and she's studying psychology. Frank Miller smiled. And she wants to visit the foundation. She's interested in volunteering here. That's wonderful. We always need more people willing to help. Uncle Frank, can I tell you a secret? Of course. I think I'm in love with her. Frank laughed. What kind of girl is she? She's the kind of girl who stops to ask if a crying child on the street is okay, the kind who shares her lunch with someone who forgot theirs, the kind of girl you and Dorothy would approve of. Then I want to meet her soon. She's coming tomorrow. And Uncle Frank? Yes? I'm going to tell her our whole story, all, from the day you found me until now. Why? Because I want her to understand what kind of family she might be joining. I want her to know that here we believe love is shown through actions, not words. Frank was moved. Ethan, you've grown so much. I had the best examples, Uncle Frank. The next day, Olivia arrived at the foundation. She was a friendly young woman with an easy smile and kind eyes. Frank watched her interact with the children and immediately saw that Ethan had made a good choice. Olivia, Frank said when they were alone for a moment, Ethan told me you're interested in volunteering here. Yes, Mr. Miller. Ethan shared the whole story of the foundation, and I was fascinated by the idea of helping. And what do you plan to do in your field? I'd like to develop a psychological support program for the children. Many of them come here with trauma, just like Ethan did. I think I can help. Frank was impressed by the young woman's maturity and dedication. Olivia, can I ask you a personal question? Of course. Why were you drawn to Ethan? Olivia smiled. Because I've never met someone who speaks so fondly of people who aren't even his blood relatives. The way he talks about you and Dorothy showed me he understands true love. And that's important to you. It's everything. I come from a family where people only care about money and status. Meeting Ethan made me realize there are people who care about more important things. Frank nodded, satisfied. Olivia, you're welcome in our family. Even though you don't really know me. Anyone Ethan chooses who wants to help children in need has already passed the main test. That day, Olivia spent hours at the foundation. She helped in the kitchen with Dorothy, joined educational activities with Rachel, and spent time in the workshop learning about Ethan's projects. Frank, Dorothy said when they were alone, that girl is special. I thought so too. She has the same light in her eyes as Ethan. And did you see how the children responded to her? I did. They felt comfortable with her right away. It's because she has the heart of a teacher. Some people are born with that gift. 2 years later, Ethan graduated with honors in mechanical engineering. Your thesis was on social technology, engineering projects for child support institutions. The work was entirely based on the projects you had developed for the Ethan Foundation. Uncle Frank, Ethan said on graduation day, I want to make you an official invitation. What kind of invitation? I want you to be my best man. Frank Miller was surprised. Marriage? You're marrying Olivia? I am. I proposed to her yesterday and she said yes. Frank Miller hugged Ethan tightly. I'm so happy for you, son. Of course, I'll be your best man. And there's one more thing, Uncle Frank. What? Olivia and I decided we'll work at the foundation after graduation. She already has her degree in psychology, and now I'm an engineer. We want to dedicate our professional lives to continuing the work you all started. Frank Miller felt tears welling up in his eyes. Ethan, you don't have to do this. Yes, we do, Uncle Frank. This foundation is our legacy. It's our way of giving back to the world for all the kindness we've received. Ethan and Olivia's wedding was held at the foundation itself, a simple but love-filled event. All the children supported by the project took part in the ceremony, along with dozens of people whose lives had been touched by the work done there. Dear friends, Ethan said in his groom's speech, today I'm not just marrying the woman I love. I'm making official the commitment I received as a child to care for those in need. Ethan looked at Frank Miller. My best man taught me that kindness multiplies when shared. Today, Olivia and I are dedicating our lives to multiplying the kindness we've received. Olivia took the microphone. Frank Miller, Dorothy, Rachel Sullivan Parker, Richard Andrew Thompson, all of you here today are part of a beautiful story of love and redemption. Ethan and I want to be worthy of that story, and we want our children, when God blesses us with them, to grow up knowing that true wealth lies in being able to help others. After the ceremony, during the celebration, Frank Miller spoke with Richard about the foundation's future. Frank, Ethan, and Olivia have amazing ideas to expand the project. I'm willing to fund whatever is needed. Richard, you've already done so much, more than enough. Frank, you gave me back my son. You gave me the chance to be a real father. Nothing I do will ever be enough to repay that. And Ethan, how do you feel seeing him take on this responsibility? Proud. So proud. He's become the man I always should have been. Frank Miller looked around the celebration. Children running and playing, adults chatting animatedly. Ethan and Olivia dancing in the center of the room. You know, Richard, sometimes I stop and think about how it all started, with a shared meal on an ordinary afternoon. And now look what it's become. A foundation that's already changed hundreds of children's lives, marriages that began here, families that were formed. It's as if that meal fed far more people than we ever imagined back then. Frank, can I tell you something? Of course. Sometimes I dream about what my life would be like if Ethan hadn't run away from home that day, if he'd never found you. And what would it be like? I'd probably be a successful but miserable businessman, with a son who hated me and an ex-wife who never forgave me, and you'd just be a good, honest mechanic working in a simple shop. And now? Now we're a family. A strange family formed by unusual circumstances, but a real one. Frank Miller nodded. That's true, Richard. We are a family. 5 years had passed since Ethan and Olivia's wedding. The couple had 2 children, Emma, age 3, and Frank, age 1, named in honor of the grandfather who had saved the family. Grandpa Frank, said Emma one afternoon, using the affectionate nickname she had created for Frank Miller. Tell me the story about Daddy when he was little. Frank Miller smiled. It had become a tradition. Every week, Emma asked to hear the story of how her father had been found behind the workshop. Once upon a time, there was a very brave boy named Ethan, began Frank Miller, with Emma sitting on his lap. Who was lost? Who was lost, but didn't know he was looking for a new family. And then you showed up. And then a mechanic who was eating lunch saw that the boy was hungry and shared his food. Exactly. And do you know what happened after he shared his food? What? The food multiplied. The more he shared, the more food appeared. Emma laughed, believing the magical version of the story. Like magic. Like magic. The magic of kindness. Ethan appeared at that moment, returning from work at the foundation. Dad's telling stories again, Emma? Yeah, Daddy. The story about when you were lost and Grandpa Frank found you. Ethan kissed his daughter and hugged Frank Miller. And it's the most beautiful story in the world, isn't it, my princess? It is. And when I grow up, I'm going to share my food with hungry people too. Are you sure? Asked Ethan. I am, because then the food turns magical and multiplies. Ethan and Frank Miller exchanged emotional glances. The third generation was already learning the values that had transformed their lives. Olivia arrived home just then, also coming from the foundation. How was your day, love? Asked Ethan. Amazing. We got a new child today. An 8-year-old boy who was living on the streets. How is he? Scared but open. He reminded me a lot of you when Frank told me how you first came here. Ethan stepped closer to his wife. And what was your first move? The same one Frank took with you. I offered him food and kindness. Frank Miller smiled, watching the cycle continue. And did it work? It did. He ate 3 plates of Dorothy's food and is already playing with the other kids. What's his name? Asked Emma. Noah, Olivia replied. And you know what's funny? When I asked him what he wanted most in the world, he said he wanted to learn how to fix broken things. Frank Miller laughed loudly. Sounds like I've got another grandkid to teach mechanics to. Grandpa Frank, said Emma, are you going to share your food with Noah too? Of course, my princess. And will you help me? Yes, I'll give him my yogurt. That night, while putting Emma to bed, Ethan talked to his daughter about the meaning of helping others. Daddy, why are there kids who don't have homes? Sometimes things get hard for families, sweetheart, and kids end up alone. But they're not alone forever, right? No, Emma. Someone kind always shows up to help, like they did for me. And now we help other kids? Exactly, because when we receive love, our job is to pass it on. Daddy, when I grow up, I want to work at the foundation too. Are you sure? I am. I want to be just like you, just like Mommy, just like Grandpa Frank, and just like Grandma Dorothy. Ethan kissed his daughter's forehead. You're going to be even better than all of us, my princess. The next morning, Frank Miller arrived early at the foundation and found Noah, the new boy, sitting alone in the cafeteria. Good morning, Noah. Sleep well? The boy nodded shyly. Hungry? A little. Frank Miller went to the kitchen and made a generous sandwich with everything a kid loves. Here you go, champ. Noah took the sandwich and looked at Frank Miller with the same big, curious eyes Ethan had years ago. Why are you being so nice to me? Because everyone deserves kindness, Noah, especially kids. Even the kids who don't have a family? Especially the kids who don't have a family, because they need to discover that there's always someone willing to care for them. Noah ate his sandwich slowly, savoring every bite. Mr. Frank? You can call me Uncle Frank, Noah. Uncle Frank, is it true that kids here learn how to fix things? It's true. Do you like fixing things? I do. When I lived on the streets, I'd find broken stuff in the trash and try to fix it. Frank Miller felt an overwhelming familiarity with that situation. And did you manage to fix them? Sometimes. But I didn't have the right tools. Here, you'll have all the tools you need, and you'll learn how to use every single one. Noah's eyes lit up. Really? Really? But first you need to feel at home here. Meet the other kids, talk to Aunt Olivia, eat well. Uncle Frank? Yes? Thank you. For what, Noah? For not pretending you didn't see me. Frank Miller's heart tightened. It was as if Ethan was speaking to him again for the first time. Noah, can I tell you a secret? Sure. A long time ago, a boy just like you showed up here. He was scared, hungry, and needed help. What happened to him? He found a family, grew up, studied, got married, had kids, and now he helps other children like you. Does he live nearby? He does, and I'm sure he'll want to meet you. Noah finished his sandwich and looked around the cafeteria. Uncle Frank, is this my home now? If you want it to be, Noah, this place is home for every child who needs one. I do. Then welcome to the family, Noah. At that moment, Ethan arrived at the foundation and saw Frank Miller talking to Noah. The scene instantly transported him back 15 years when he himself was a scared child receiving kindness from a stranger. Good morning, said Ethan, walking over. Noah, this is Ethan. Remember the boy I told you about? Noah looked at Ethan curiously. Were you like me when you were little? Exactly like you, Ethan replied, smiling. I was scared too, hungry too, and needed a family too. And did you find one? I did, the best family in the world. Noah smiled for the first time since arriving at the foundation. Uncle Ethan, can you teach me the things you learned? Of course, Noah. And you know what? My daughter Emma can't wait to meet you. She likes fixing things too. How old is she? 3. She's tiny, but really smart. Like I was when I was little. Ethan laughed. Probably smarter than all of us. Frank Miller watched the conversation between Ethan and Noah and felt a sense of fulfillment. The circle was closing once again and a new story was beginning. Ethan, Frank said when they were alone, seeing you with Noah reminded me of when you first came here. It reminded me too. It's amazing how things repeat themselves. They don't repeat, Ethan. They renew. Every child who comes here brings a new chance to make a difference. And Noah, what do you think of him? I think he has the same light you had. He just needs love and guidance to flourish. Then he's in the right place. He is. And he has the best teachers he could ask for. Ethan hugged Frank. Uncle Frank, thank you for teaching me how to keep the cycle of kindness going. Ethan, you didn't learn that from me. It was already inside you. I just helped bring it out. Either way, today I can help Noah because you helped me once. And when Noah grows up, he'll help other kids because you helped him today. That's how we change the world, isn't it, Uncle Frank? One child at a time. Exactly, my boy. One child at a time. The end of the story. So what did you think of this touching story? Tell us in the comments which part touched you the most, and if you've ever experienced a similar situation. Don't forget to like the video and subscribe to the channel for more heartwarming stories.